I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd take down a doctor's career, but here I am at 3 in the morning, staring at the email from the State Medical Board confirming that Dr. Benjamin Foster's medical license has been suspended pending a full investigation. And I don't feel guilty at all. I feel vindicated. Because that man almost killed me, because he couldn't be bothered to spend 15 minutes on a Sunday approving a prescription refill. And then he had the audacity to bill me for missing an appointment that never existed. So yeah, I reported him with every receipt, every recording, every piece of evidence I could gather, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Let me back up and tell you how we got here, because this story is insane and I still can't believe it happened to me. My name is Jennifer, I'm 29 years old, and I have type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed when I was 12, and I've been managing it ever since with insulin, careful diet monitoring, regular endocrinologist appointments, the whole routine. It's not easy, but it's my life, and I've gotten pretty good at managing it over the years. My A1C is usually around 6.8, which my previous doctors always said was excellent control. I wear a continuous glucose monitor, I check my levels obsessively, I'm careful about everything I eat. I do everything right, because I have to. Type 1 diabetes doesn't give you a choice. About 8 months ago, I moved from Chicago to a smaller city in Pennsylvania for a job opportunity. Great position, better pay, closer to my sister who just had her first baby. The move was good for me in a lot of ways, but it meant finding all new doctors. Finding a good endocrinologist when you have type 1 is crucial. This isn't something you can just see any random general practitioner for. You need someone who understands the disease, who takes it seriously, who's responsive when issues come up. I did my research and found Dr. Benjamin Foster. He had good reviews online, 15 years of experience, his practice website talked about patient-centered care, and 24/7 availability for urgent needs. Perfect, right? I made an appointment, brought all my medical records from Chicago, and met with him in early March. First red flag, he was 30 minutes late to our appointment and didn't apologize. Just walked in, glanced at my chart for maybe 20 seconds, and asked me what I needed. I'm new to the area and need to establish care, I explained. I have type 1 diabetes, I've been managing it for 17 years. Here are my records from my previous endocrinologist. He flipped through the records, and I mean flipped, like he was looking at a magazine, not actually reading. A1C of 6.8, that's fine. What insulin are you on? Humalog for fast-acting and Lantus for long-acting. Okay. I'll send in your prescriptions. Anything else? Well, I'd like to discuss my management plan, maybe schedule a follow-up in 3 months to check my levels. Sure. Have the front desk schedule you for June. We'll do blood work then. That was it. 10 minutes, maybe. He barely looked at me, didn't ask about my diet or exercise routine, didn't review my glucose monitor data, nothing. But I told myself it was fine, he was just busy, maybe he'd be more thorough at follow-up appointments. At least he was willing to prescribe my insulin. The prescriptions came through, and everything was fine for a few months. I had a follow-up in June like he'd said, it was similarly rushed, but my A1C was still good, so he said everything was fine and to come back in 3 months. Impersonal, but functional. Then came September. Specifically, Sunday, September 8th. A date I'll never forget. My Lantus prescription was due for a refill. I usually refilled everything on a very strict schedule, because running out of insulin isn't like running out of vitamins, it's literally life-threatening. But this time, there'd been a mix-up at the pharmacy. They'd filled the wrong strength the previous month, had to correct it, and it threw off my refill schedule. I didn't realize I was running low until Saturday night, September 7th, when I opened my fridge and saw I only had enough Lantus for 1 more dose. No problem, I thought. I'll just request a refill through the patient portal. I logged in at 8 p.m. Saturday night, clicked the refill request button for Lantus, and submitted it. The portal said, prescription refill requests are typically processed within 24 hours. Sunday morning, I took my last dose of Lantus. I checked the portal, nothing. No approval yet, but it had only been 12 hours, so I wasn't worried. I'd give it until the afternoon. By 2 p.m. Sunday, still nothing. I was starting to get anxious. I called the after-hours number for Dr. Foster's practice. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. You've reached the office of Dr. Benjamin Foster. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If this is a medical emergency, please hang up and dial. Please hang up and dial 911. For prescription refills, please use the patient portal. Thank you. Okay, so the patient portal it was, which I'd already done. I waited another hour and checked again. Nothing. By 4 p.m., I was genuinely worried. I called the after-hours number again, and this time someone actually picked up. Dr. Foster's answering service. Hi, yes, I'm a patient of Dr. Foster's. I have type 1 diabetes, and I'm out of my long-acting insulin. I submitted a refill request last night, but it hasn't been approved yet, and I took my last dose this morning. I really need this refill approved today so I can pick it up. What's your name and date of birth? I gave her the information. I heard typing. Okay, Ms. Anderson, I'm showing your refill request in the system. Let me page Dr. Foster for you. Thank you so much. Hold please. I held for what felt like forever, but was probably 5 minutes. Then she came back on. Ms. Anderson. I reached Dr. Foster, and he said to tell you that prescription refills are handled during regular office hours. You can call the office tomorrow morning and they'll process it then. I felt my stomach drop. Tomorrow? I need it today. I'm out of insulin. Do you understand what that means? I have type 1 diabetes. I don't produce any insulin on my own. If I don't have my long-acting insulin, my blood sugar will spike and I could go into diabetic ketoacidosis. That's a medical emergency. I understand, but Dr. Foster said refills are processed during office hours. Can you please page him again? Please tell him this is urgent, this is a safety issue. I already explained your situation. His response was that the office will handle it tomorrow. Let me talk to him directly then. Dr. Foster doesn't take direct calls through the answering service. This is an emergency. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, you should go to the emergency room or call 911. I was so frustrated I almost threw my phone. I shouldn't have to go to the ER for a routine prescription refill. I just need him to spend 2 minutes approving it. I'm sorry, but that's what Dr. Foster instructed me to tell you. You can call the office tomorrow at 9 a.m. She hung up. I sat there, shaking with anger and fear. It was 4:30 p.m. on a Sunday. The office wouldn't open until 9 a.m. Monday, that was 16.5 hours away. And I'd already gone 8 hours without my Lantus. That meant I'd be going almost 25 hours without my long-acting insulin. For people who don't have diabetes, let me explain what that means. Lantus is a long-acting insulin that provides a steady baseline of insulin throughout the day. Without it, my blood sugar would start climbing and wouldn't stop. Even with my fast-acting insulin to correct highs, without that baseline, I'd be chasing my blood sugar all day and night, constantly correcting, constantly fighting to keep it in range. And if I couldn't keep up with the corrections, I'd go into DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, which can cause brain swelling, loss of consciousness, coma, and death. I checked my glucose monitor. I was at 110, perfectly normal. But I knew that wouldn't last. I called the pharmacy to see if they could help. I'm sorry, Ms. Anderson, but we can't dispense insulin without a prescription. It's a controlled medication. You need your doctor to approve the refill. What if I pay out of pocket? Can I get an emergency supply? Not without a prescription. Your best bet is to call your doctor. I did. He won't approve it until tomorrow. The pharmacist was sympathetic but helpless. Your only option is to go to an urgent care or ER. They can give you a temporary supply if you explain the situation. So that's what I did. I drove to the nearest urgent care at 5 p.m. Waited for 45 minutes. Finally saw a doctor who listened to my situation, checked my glucose, which was up to 180 now, climbing, and wrote me a prescription for a single vial of Lantus to get me through until I could reach my doctor. This really shouldn't have happened, the urgent care doctor said, shaking his head. A patient with type 1 should never be without insulin. Your endocrinologist should have approved that refill immediately. I know, I said, feeling validated but also furious. But he said refills are only processed during office hours. That's not acceptable for insulin. This is a basic standard of care issue. I got the prescription filled, went home, took my dose. I was now about 12 hours late on it, and my blood sugar had climbed to 210 despite correction doses. I felt like garbage, my head hurt, I was exhausted and dehydrated. But at least I had insulin. The urgent care visit cost me $150 copay. The insulin, because it was a new prescription and my insurance needed prior authorization, cost me $340 out of pocket. So Dr. Foster's refusal to spend 2 minutes approving a refill on a Sunday had cost me 5 hours of my time, nearly $500, and he stood up. Ms. Anderson, I think it's clear that this isn't a good fit. I'm going to recommend you find another endocrinologist who better suits your expectations. Are you seriously dropping me as a patient because I complained about your negligence? I'm suggesting a change in care, because we clearly have different expectations about availability and communication. I'll provide you with a list of other endocrinologists in the area, and I'll continue your care for 30 days while you transition. 30 days? It took me 2 months to get the initial appointment with you. Most endocrinologists have 3-month wait lists. That's not my problem, Ms. Anderson. I'm not obligated to continue treating patients who are disrespectful and demanding. Disrespectful? Demanding? I'm advocating for basic standard of care. This conversation is over. Please check out at the front desk. He walked out, leaving me sitting there in the exam room, shaking with anger and disbelief. He'd just dropped me as a patient because I'd dared to complain about him refusing to approve my insulin refill. I went to the front desk, feeling numb. The receptionist smiled at me. How did everything go today? He's dropping me as a patient. Her smile faltered. Oh? Okay, well, you'll need to pay your copay for today's visit. Today's visit? We talked for 5 minutes and he didn't do anything. Your insurance was billed for an office visit. Your copay is $40. I paid it, too exhausted to fight, and left. 2 days later, I got a bill in the mail from Dr. Foster's practice. But it wasn't for the October 3rd visit I'd just paid for. It was for $200 for a missed appointment fee for September 10th. September 10th. I pulled out my calendar. That was 2 days after the insulin incident. I'd never had an appointment scheduled for September 10th. I'd called the office that day to complain, but there was no appointment. I called the billing department. I'm being billed for a missed appointment on September 10th, but I never had an appointment scheduled that day. Let me check. Typing. Yes, I show you had an appointment scheduled for 2 p.m. on September 10th, and you didn't show up or call to cancel. Our policy is a $200 missed appointment fee for no-shows. I never scheduled that appointment. I've never had a 2 p.m. appointment with Drive Foster. All my appointments have been in the morning. Well, it's in our system. Someone must have scheduled it. Can you tell me when it was scheduled? Who scheduled it? I don't have access to that information. You'd need to speak to the office manager. I asked to speak to Linda. Left a voicemail. She didn't call back. I called again the next day. And the next. Finally, a week later, she called me back. Ms. Anderson, I'm calling about your dispute of the missed appointment fee. Linda, I never had an appointment scheduled for September 10th. I never made that appointment. According to our records, you called the office on September 9th requesting to speak to Dr. Foster about your prescription issue. We scheduled you for a phone appointment on September 10th at 2 p.m. You didn't answer when we called. Nobody told me about any phone appointment. I left a message asking Dr. Foster to call me back. That's not the same as scheduling an appointment. Our office policy is that if a patient requests to speak with the doctor, we schedule a phone appointment and notify them through the patient portal. I never got any notification. Let me check. Long pause. It looks like the notification wasn't sent due to a system error. But the appointment was still scheduled in our system, and you didn't answer when we called. Because I didn't know about the appointment. How can I miss an appointment I was never told about? I understand your frustration, Ms. Anderson, but our system shows the appointment was scheduled. The $200 fee stands. This is insane. You're charging me $200 for an appointment that I was never informed about, that I never confirmed, that was supposedly a phone call from Dr. Foster, who, by the way, has never called me directly once in the entire time I've been his patient. I'm sorry you feel that way. If you don't pay the fee, we'll send your account to collections. That's when I lost it. You know what, Linda? Dr. Foster almost killed me because he refused to approve my insulin refill on a Sunday. Then he dropped me as a patient for complaining about it. Now you're trying to charge me $200 for a fake appointment to squeeze more money out of me on my way out the door. This is fraud. This is retaliation. And I'm not paying a fucking dime. I hung up before she could respond. And then I started planning. I spent the next 3 days documenting everything. I pulled every message from the patient portal, printed every one. I got my insurance statements showing the charges. I recorded a call to the pharmacy getting them to confirm the timeline of the refill request and when it was eventually approved. I got the bill from the urgent care visit. I wrote a detailed timeline of everything that had happened from September 8th to October 3rd. Then I filed a formal complaint with the State Medical Board. The complaint was 25 pages long with 43 exhibits. I outlined the refusal to approve medically necessary insulin, the patient abandonment when he dropped me for complaining, and the fraudulent billing for an appointment that never happened and that I was never notified about. I also filed complaints with my insurance company for fraudulent billing, with the Better Business Bureau, and I left detailed reviews on every medical review site I could find explaining what had happened. The response from Dr. Foster's office was immediate. Linda called me 2 days after I filed the complaints. Ms. Anderson, I'm calling because we've received notice of complaints filed against Dr. Foster and our practice. I'd like to discuss resolving this matter. There's nothing to discuss. Everything in my complaints is factual and documented. We are willing to waive the $200 missed appointment fee as a gesture of goodwill. A gesture of goodwill? You mean you're waiving a fraudulent charge that should never have existed in the first place? We'd also like to offer to resume your care if you'd like to continue seeing Dr. Foster. I laughed. Actually laughed. Are you serious? After he told me we weren't a good fit, and gave me 30 days to find a new doctor. Now that I've filed complaints, suddenly you want me back. Dr. Foster is concerned that there may have been miscommunication. There was no miscommunication. He refused to approve my insulin on a Sunday because he needed his day off. Then he dropped me as a patient for complaining. Then you tried to charge me for an appointment that never happened. That's not miscommunication, that's negligence and fraud. Ms. Anderson, I really think we can resolve this. The only thing that's going to resolve this is the medical board investigation. I have nothing else to say to you. I hung up and blocked the number. The medical board investigation took 3 months. During that time, I found a new endocrinologist, Dr. Sarah Kim, who is absolutely wonderful, actually listens to me, and has an after-hours emergency line that's actually answered. I told her everything that had happened with Dr. Foster, and she looked horrified. That's not just bad practice, she said. That's dangerous. Type 1 diabetics should never be without insulin. Ever? And refusing to approve a refill for work-life balance is absurd. I've approved prescriptions from the beach on vacation because that's part of the job. In December, I got a call from an investigator with the medical board. He wanted to interview me about my complaint. We talked for over an hour, and he asked detailed questions about everything: the timeline, the after-hours service response, the urgent care visit, the October appointment, the fake billing. Ms. Anderson, I want you to know we are taking this very seriously, he said. We've also received complaints from other patients about Dr. Foster. Your case isn't isolated. Really? I can't give you details, but yes. There's a pattern of behavior here that's concerning. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter from the medical board. Dr. Benjamin Foster's medical license had been suspended pending a full investigation. They'd found multiple violations: failure to provide appropriate access to care, patient abandonment, fraudulent billing practices, and failure to maintain professional standards. Apparently, I wasn't the only patient he'd pulled this shit with. There were at least 6 other complaints about him refusing to approve medications or respond to urgent calls outside office hours. There were complaints about him dropping patients who questioned his care. And there were multiple complaints about mysterious, missed appointments showing up on bills for appointments that patients never knew about. The investigation also revealed that he'd been overbooking patients, running chronically late, and spending an average of less than 8 minutes per patient visit while billing insurance for comprehensive 30-minute appointments. He'd been doing this for years, apparently, and making bank off of it. His practice closed last week. Linda and the other staff were let go. Dr. Foster lawyered up and is trying to fight the suspension. But based on what the investigator told me, his chances aren't good. The evidence is overwhelming. My insurance company also investigated the fraudulent billing and found enough irregularities to refer the case to the State Insurance Fraud Division. Dr. Foster might end up facing criminal charges on top of losing his license. And the $200 missed appointment fee. Not only waived, but the practice had to refund it to me along with a written apology, which I'm sure was written by a lawyer, but still felt good to receive. I saw my sister last weekend. She asked how everything was going with my diabetes management, and I told her the whole story. When I finished, she just stared at me. Jen, holy shit. You took down his entire practice. I didn't take it down, I corrected. He did. I just documented it and reported it. You're not worried about karma or anything. Like, the guy lost his career. Good, I said, and I meant it. He deserved to lose it. You know what could have happened if I hadn't been knowledgeable enough to go to urgent care? If I'd just waited until Monday like he said, I could have gone into DKA. I could have ended up in the ICU. I could have died, Amanda. All because he decided his Sunday was more important than clicking approve on a prescription. She nodded slowly. You're right. I'm glad you're okay. And I'm glad you fought back. I'm glad I fought back too. Because here's what I learned from all of this: doctors are human, and some humans are negligent, and some are actively harmful. And the system protects them because we are taught to respect doctors, to trust them, to assume they know best and have our best interests at heart. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they are just going through the motions, maximizing their income, protecting their free time, and they don't actually give a shit if you live or die as long as you don't cause problems. Dr. Foster thought he could treat me like garbage, refuse to provide basic standard of care, and face no consequences, because who was I? Just one patient out of hundreds. Just a woman with diabetes who was probably overreacting, probably being difficult, probably expecting too much. But I documented everything. I knew my rights. I knew what standard of care should look like because I'd had good doctors before. And I refused to accept being treated like my life didn't matter. So yeah, I reported him to the medical board with receipts. With timelines and phone records and billing statements and witness statements and every single piece of evidence I could gather. And when they investigated, they found that my case wasn't unique. It was part of a pattern of negligence and fraud that had been going on for years. My daughter asked me the other day, sorry, not my daughter, my niece, Amanda's baby. I was holding her and thinking about how someday she might have a chronic illness, might need medication, might have to depend on doctors who might not care about her the way they should. And I thought, I hope someone teaches her to document everything. I hope someone teaches her that advocating for herself isn't being difficult, it's being smart. I hope someone teaches her that people in positions of power don't automatically deserve deference just because of their title. Dr. Foster's license is suspended. His practice is closed. He's facing potential criminal charges for insurance fraud. And I'm alive, healthy, and under the care of a doctor who actually gives a shit about whether I have access to my medication. I won. He lost. And I don't feel bad about it for a second.